Well, hello, we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
It feels like we went on somewhat of a hiatus, sort of.
Yeah,
But we'll get into that and why in a little bit. Hannah, how's it going?
it's pretty good. It's been busy. Trying to enjoy summer but also hustle, so
Trying to enjoy summer, but not really making that much time to enjoy summer.
No, because work has to come first and that's what adulthood is like.
Well, some of it is self-imposed. I mean, all of it's self-imposed work for you because you work, you have your own business.
Well,
but
it has to be, otherwise I won't make any money.
yeah.
So.
But before we get too far, let's acknowledge that we're doing a bit of a different, a lot of a different style of episode at the moment. I don't know if you can tell, but we are actually outside right now. You can hear the lovely, cool, crisp sounds of a nice, somewhat chilly August evening. But it's not too chilly for us because we've got a little portable campfire in front of us on our balcony. We are being extremely careful about doing this in a safe way.
It's very, very small.
I've got a little cup next to the fire in case I need to douse it. And we've got marshmallows.
Yeah.
That, I'm going to try and roast it while we're recording here.
Me
We're
too.
we're also recording without our microphones are not on a table. We're holding them in our laps.
So you're probably going to hear like
Some of this. Oh, yeah, get some of that. Okay, we're roasting our marshmallows right now. And
Yeah.
Yours is on fire, so maybe blow it out. Okay.
just like The Thing.
There you go. Yes, we watched The Thing.
It's all on brand.
Which we will be getting to in just a moment. But yeah, so we're on the balcony. There's also no video this time.
Right.
Like we said, we're very busy at the moment. And I decided that the best way to continue doing the podcast while also making sure that I don't go insane with overwork is to not shoot video for it. I think I'm still going to find a way to put it on YouTube. Just
Yeah,
in
you
very
can just do the
basic,
audio.
bare bones way.
Mm-hmm.
But we're also not going to do any editing this episode. So if Hannah says something controversial, I guess she's canceled.
Baba booey, baba booey.
The light of the fire is casting a shadow on your forehead from your glasses that makes it look like you have cat eyes.
Ooh.
It's really cool. I would take a picture of it, but I've got one hand holding my microphone, and the other one is popping a marshmallow in my mouth.
And it's throwing a high five.
That's the energy I was going for. Not bad. You got to roast it longer, though.
Well, mine's on fire, but
You got to hold it
It's
a
all
little bit
good.
higher, I think.
without almost fail, I accidentally light my marshmallows on fire.
Accidentally? You do it so consistently, I thought it was on purpose.
No.
I thought you liked it that way.
No.
Okay, good, because I thought you were insane.
No, some people are like that. I like it like a nice golden brown where it's like crispy on the outside, gooey on the inside. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we knew what
yeah.
you meant.
Yeah, not burnt. That's no good.
So second order of business, let's just get a little bit of positive self-talk in here. Part of the reason why we've been so busy lately, the past couple of months, I alluded to it in our Rain Sounds episode while we were camping, in that I said we just finished principal shooting on a big project. And that project is, I wrote a movie, a feature film.
And
then
you directed it, yeah.
And then I directed it, and then we shot it, and we just wrapped up shooting just before we went camping in the last episode, and now we're into post-production. So that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
I would say.
You've edited about like a third of the movie so far.
A third of like the main sort of bare bones picture edit. Yeah.
I
About
mean, that's still a
35
lot.
minutes worth of content on it.
Considering that this idea was conceived in like April, and now you're in the midst of doing a picture edit in August, that's pretty great.
Yeah. Well, the idea was to just get it done and not let it kind of linger in production hell, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I'm announcing it on the podcast because I announced it on Instagram through a couple stories, and I'm going to start doing some posts and marketing and stuff. So if you know me in real life and you follow me or us on social media, you either have already seen some of those or you will see some more. The movie's called Coffee to Cocktails. It's a very basic sort of dialogue-driven no plot, mumblecore-esque movie. I wrote it specifically with the intent that it would be straightforward to shoot.
That you could get it done.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not sure how long it's going to be, but it's feature length at the very least. The script was about 100 pages, so it's going to shape up to be probably somewhere between 100 and 120 minutes. And it's going to be premiering November 11th at 2 p.m. at the Mayfair in Ottawa. So if you live in Ottawa, or if you don't live in Ottawa, especially if you don't live in Ottawa, please come to see it. If you know me in real life, or if you don't know me in real life, I would love it if you came to see this movie. Small team worked on it for a matter of months, put a lot of great effort into it. I'm very grateful to everybody who helped out, and I wanted to give everybody a chance to see that hard work up on the screen. So it's going to be premiering in a real theater, one that I've gone to for several years and that I love. I'm very proud of that. And moving on.
Yeah, a lot of great memories at that theater. We've gone on a lot of dates at the Mayfair. So it would be really cool to see like a movie that I was helping you with every step of the way. Pretty much, yeah. You know, from reading the first draft, I think, of the script and giving notes to, you know, production and you know, in editing the film, I've been giving maybe some minor notes, seeing like your rough drafts of the scenes so far. So it's been really cool to see like it go from just the idea to like all the way to the end, and then in the theater, that's going to be so wild.
Yeah, and all that while, you know, balancing me working. Thankfully, I wasn't full-time. You know, I had some reduced hours during the summer, which was perfect for working on this. I don't know how I would have possibly gotten it done if I was still working full-time.
It would have taken you way longer.
Yeah, I'm back up to full-time now, almost the exact moment, like the day after we wrapped principal photography. It was like, we're moving back into a busy season.
It's fate.
Yeah.
And
then you're also doing weddings around the clock and preparing for a wedding show coming up next month.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm honestly like, I don't know how I'm going to do it next year. It's been so crazy busy. Yeah. Man, it's wild. I can't wait for slow season, honestly. I mean, I love doing weddings and stuff, but it would be nice to like be able to like actually chill in between working instead of like working and then editing, working.
Yeah, I was reading an Instagram meme, or as the cool kids call it.
I love a good meme.
A meme. that was like
a meme.
You ever put in so much, you know, effort at work that you're so tired that you can't, you know, like your hobbies feel like work, so then you don't do them, and then you go back to work and you're upset that you didn't do your hobbies?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially as like a self-employed person, it's like, oh, I could relax right now, but I have like projects I need to send to clients, so I should probably do that first and then I can relax. Oh, I have another wedding to shoot. Okay, well, I should probably edit that and then I can relax.
Yeah. I mean, I can't complain. It's so much of it is self-inflicted, but yeah, it is like, you know, I'll sit down to play some Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, and then I sit down and I'm like, well, it's a day off. It's the beginning of the day. I really haven't earned it yet. I should go like do some dishes or something, and then.
Yeah, that was like on Saturday. I was gonna work like a wedding the next day, so I was like, I'll just relax and watch some YouTube, and then I ended up like watching like an hour-long video on YouTube and pausing it like every 5 minutes to go work for a few minutes, and it took me like the whole day to watch the video.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Maybe we'll talk about the film. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about the film a bit more in the future. Maybe we'll do a whole episode talking about the production, but I don't know. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll save that for like a commentary track or something.
Yeah.
But
possibly.
On to our next listed item here in our important order of business. I put out a call about 2 episodes ago saying, hey, if you listen to this podcast, drop a comment, direct message me, tell me who you are and that you listen. You know how many I got? 0.
That's weird.
So
I don't know.
All I can concede from that is that all of our small library of listeners are people who we don't know in real life, other than, I guess, probably Gabe, maybe Carl, I think Faraz.
My childhood friend
maybe
Ben. Yeah.
Other than that, like I think maybe my brother listens
Yeah. Your mom listens once in a while. I think.
once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I texted her. I was like, do you listen to our podcast? She was like, not recently. I was like, that means no. But then
That's okay.
but then after that, she dropped like a reference
Oh,
to
nice.
something that I say during the
Yeah.
podcast. She was like, "See, I listen." I was like, "Yeah, you do listen because that is a very specific reference." So
Mm.
I appreciate you, Mumala.
That's so cute.
Anyway, so yeah, I guess our audience is either shy or non-existent, and it's just fake numbers.
Why would it be fake numbers?
I
That
don't know.
doesn't make any
Get
sense.
another marshmallow.
Maybe it's just like random people that find us somehow online.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really podcast while a marshmallow's in my mouth. You have to vamp here.
All right. I'm vamping. I'm seeing you eat a marshmallow. I'm looking at Shaggy staring at us through the window on our balcony.
Oh, what up, Shag? Yeah. It's a very nice night. You're wearing a beautiful dress. I'm
Oh,
wearing
thank
my
you.
Spider-Man onesie.
Yeah.
We're both dressed exactly according to our personalities.
Yeah, you never dress up at all.
I've not been known to, no.
No.
So, we did indeed watch The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
But not The Thing.
Not the thing.
Not The Thing and
Here's
not
the thing.
We did not watch John Carpenter's The Thing.
Unfortunately.
And we did not watch the remake of The Thing. That's actually not a remake of The Thing.
Yeah. It's a sneaky
From like
sequel?
10 years ago. No, it's a
Prequel.
prequel. We watched The Thing from Another World
The OG.
from 1951.
Yeah.
You look like you're reaching for something. Are you
I'm
trying to get
reaching
another
for a
marshmallow?
marshmallow, obviously.
Here you go, my dear.
Give me that marshmallow.
I gave it to you. You don't need to be rude.
No. I was just being silly.
Oh, that's not allowed on this podcast. So we watched The Thing from Another World
Mm-hmm.
from 1951, which I had wanted to watch ever since I first saw John Carpenter's The Thing,
Yeah.
which floored me.
Absolutely.
I think I've said it on the podcast before. I think I need to get a little bit closer to the microphone. I'm not used to holding it in my lap, but John Carpenter's The Thing, I feel like, is the world's greatest horror movie. The best horror movie ever made.
It's the best I've seen, and I've seen quite a few at this point.
It's just a perfect combination of suspense and terror and gore without just being like mindless, like human blood gore from like in Friday the 13th, you know, like it's creative gore.
Right.
It gives me the heebie-jeebies. And then
Definitely.
on top of that, it has great memorable characters and acting, great lighting, cinematography, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
on top of that.
I mean, John Carpenter's really good at making suspenseful movies.
Absolutely. Like Halloween.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah.
He
The
didn't,
first
he
Halloween.
didn't do
was-
Nightmare on Elm Street, my dear. You got this wrong the couple of episodes ago as well.
Who is it?
That's Wes Craven.
Okay.
He did Scream.
Yeah. I mix those up because
Hang
in my
on, hang
mind,
on.
those are like the godfathers of horror.
I need to take your podcast badge
No!
away.
So we got George Romero, we got Wes Craven, we got John Carpenter. It's like the holy trinity of horror.
Of, like 70s, 80s horror, I suppose.
The best horror.
Well, yeah, totally. So, but this is 50s horror. Well, it's not even really horror. It's more sci-fi. Am I being too
Sci-fi
loud?
suspense.
I have headphones on, so I can't hear how loud I'm being. But we are on the balcony, and it's kind of late at night. It's like almost 11 p.m. I don't know if I'm
It's
being
fine.
too loud. Okay, so John Carpenter's... Or not John Carpenter, this is the thing. Different Thing. As Hannah said, here's The Thing. Howard Hawks' The Thing, in fact. The log line of this movie is... Scientists and American Air Force officials fend off a bloodthirsty alien organism while at a remote Arctic outpost. So, rated PG, actually. Which, I mean, it makes sense.
Wow.
Like, there wasn't that much visible blood.
Did they actually have ratings back then? Because I thought it was just the Hays Code, and then the MPAA came in later.
I suppose it might have been rated after the fact.
Yeah,
but,
probably.
So, I was prepared going into this movie to not only make a lot of comparisons to the John Carpenter version, but to also inherently be like, well, it's not as good as the John Carpenter version. But
Well, it's not.
what I was not prepared for was for it to be almost an entirely different movie.
Yeah, well, actually, I think that's the best way of... I mean, if it was too similar, that would defeat the purpose of remaking it, I think.
Right. So I think as a point of comparison here, I'll bring up the log line of John Carpenter's The Thing, and we'll discuss the differences a little bit, because the main difference leads into my first piece of trivia. So John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982, rated 18A, which is... Oof,
Is it really?
wow.
I mean, it is pretty graphic.
Yeah.
So,
Only about 20 minutes longer, for the record. A research team in Antarctica is hunted by a shape-shifting alien that assumes the appearance of its victims. So you can see already, it's the same premise, but it gets taken in a totally different direction. So the main thing... I'm going to do that a lot, aren't I?
yeah.
The main point of topic here is that in the John Carpenter version, it's a shapeshifter. And that's kind of the whole point of the movie, is that it could be anyone.
That's what makes it so creepy.
Yeah. But it wasn't that in this one.
No, it's more of like a straight, like, suspense movie where it's like, here's a bit, like, of that era, it's very indicative. The 50s, like, those kind of creature features. Like, just some big beast is attacking people.
You can't come in, beast!
Yeah, so...
But to me, that's like, I mean, I know Nightmare on Elm Street's not based on a book, but that would be like adapting Nightmare on Elm Street, but cutting out the fact that, like, Freddy attacks you in your dreams. It's like, isn't that kind of the whole point? Why adapt it if you're not going to adapt, like, its signature feature?
Well, that's why John Carpenter's version was so good, is because a lot of the beats were similar, but he took it in such a different way that was better.
Well, sorry. Okay, so I need to fill in a gap here. So my first piece of trivia is, originally, it was intended to make the creature a shapeshifter, as it is in the novel. But the limited budget forced the filmmakers to drop the idea.
Right.
Early conceptual sketches depict a very plant-like looking creature with one of its limbs seemingly undergoing a transformation into a human hand.
Right. Well, I mean, it's definitely plant-based because
You
they
got to
take...
keep a plant-based diet in 2023.
Absolutely. You got to get that oat milk in. So they talk about how they take the plasma from the hand and then they, like, create, like, plants out of it in, like, a nursery.
Yep.
So
go on.
it's plant-based.
Yep. Cool. Well, the creature effects in the John Carpenter version, I think you could argue that they have plant-like qualities. Some sort of Venus flytrap-esque at times,
yeah.
and tentacles, right?
I mean, it reanimates itself. Like, if it gets cut off, it kind of grows back.
Right.
So
that was the missing piece that I hadn't explained, is that the short story or novel that it was based on, it was a shapeshifter. So
Okay.
it's like, why go to the trouble of adapting it if you're not going to adapt, like, what it's fully about? You know?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure this movie did fairly well at the time, but, like, there were such limitations in cinema that you could only do so much, right?
I suppose, yeah. So, did you like it?
I liked it. I didn't love it.
Really?
I think I would have liked it more if I hadn't seen The Thing.
I guess.
Because, like, it's obviously a very similar story, but it's just executed so much better.
Yeah.
You know? Like, some 1950s movies, like, they can really stand on their own. They're really timeless. But something like this, like, it draws just so much comparison. And there's just so many more, like, sci-fi suspense movies that come after that it's hard not to compare it to that. I don't know what we've seen thus far that's sci-fi. Probably Metropolis, kind of.
Yeah.
We've seen Frankenstein, but that was for our creature feature, like Monster Madness.
Yeah, I was listening to those episodes again recently. Those are some great episodes. We make good content. Let's go. More positive
Yeah.
self-talk here. I like our podcast.
Yeah.
I listen to our podcast.
I'm honestly so excited for spooky season again because I like to take the opportunity to watch, like, classics we haven't seen before. So I'm excited for that. I kind of want to watch The Blob this year.
Oh, really? Well, what we have to watch is the 30s Dracula, because
Yes.
you haven't seen it for some reason.
Yeah, even though I took a vampire class.
Yeah, we got to get on that. So, as I wrestle with some gooey melted marshmallow on my lip here,
As you do.
I'll say that I found it perfectly entertaining. especially
Yeah.
for a 50s movie. Like, not all of the 50s movies that we've seen, or wait, this is 1951? Am I going crazy
No,
here?
yeah, it's 1951.
So, okay, so 40s movies, I guess, is what we've been watching so far. Not all of the movies from the 40s have, like, knocked my socks off.
Right.
You know? Like, particularly Maltese Falcon was, like,
No.
kind of whatever. And even Treasure of the Sierra Madre, I liked a lot, but it was pretty long. This was a nice, short movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially, like, we paused it. You were like, hey, pause it for me. And then towards the end, and I saw the runtime of how much was left, and I was like, really? We're almost at the end.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like one of my favorite movies that we watched in this journey this time of the 1940s was His Girl Friday,
Yeah.
because it had realistic overlapping dialogue, as is the Howard Hawks style.
Right.
And this movie is a Howard Hawks production and also had overlapping dialogue.
It was full of overlapping dialogue. It was like, hey, just so you know, overlapping dialogue is my thing right out the gate.
Yeah.
And I liked it a lot.
Well, I mean, it's a little more comparable to, like, something more modern now, because that's how people talk,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I like the style. Certainly.
I thought the style was good. It was pretty jargon heavy for me, and not in a good way. Like, there was just a lot of mumbo jumbo, and it's like, can we just, like, get down to brass tacks here? Like,
Brax tax?
brass tacks.
Where are you getting your tax?
Don't worry about it.
Well, I kind of disagree because
Okay.
I'll say what you said is true for maybe like the first 10 minutes, the first 15 minutes. And if you're a longtime listener to the podcast, you know that I have a tendency to tune out when things get a little convoluted, and we sometimes need to turn on the subtitles because I start to get lost. I was kind of getting that way within the first 10 minutes, and I was like thinking of turning the subtitles on, but I was like, nah, let me see if I can do it. Let me see. But by the time we hit around the 15-minute mark, things quieted down a bit. There was less overlapping dialogue, and the film amped up. It got more interesting. It got easier to follow. What they were saying became more clear, I felt. And we didn't end up turning on the subtitles, and I was able to follow the plot perfectly fine. So I would say occasionally, once in a while, it gets a little jargon heavy, but I will put forth that, or posit, if you will, that it was at no times that you needed to really like heavily follow the plot. It was more
No.
so for color.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I had no trouble following the plot, but I definitely tuned in and out of consciousness.
Oh, sure.
I would
Me
like
too.
black out for like a few seconds. I'm like, okay, where are we? Oh, they're still talking about the hand. Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, that
I
happens
don't
on
know.
most movies.
I
To me,
mean,
anyway.
I don't know. It just depends on how engaging it is.
So you didn't find it engaging?
There was elements that I quite liked about it, and it had a lot of potential, and I think that potential was greatly fulfilled in the 1980s thing.
Fair enough. Like, I can see why they remade it, for sure.
100%. Because, well, especially because from an effects perspective,
Yeah.
in the 1950s they were limited,
Mhm.
so then they were able to successfully do it in a much grandiose way.
Well, I'll say what this film had going for it the most, as it should, was its sense of suspense. I know that the sense of suspense was nowhere near as good as John Carpenter's The Thing, but I still felt that it was very effective to the point that at least the first two times that the alien showed up on screen, the second time I jumped a little bit, but the first time I gasped. I was like, which is not something that I normally do. And
No.
I've even seen that clip before
Or he's
online
like clawing in.
reviews where they
Yeah.
open the door and he claws in through the door. I've seen that clip before,
It was
but this
definitely
time I
surprising.
didn't see it coming, and it
Yeah.
happened. They opened the door and he was there, and I was like, and that, if it's doing that, I think it's doing something right. I think it's creating something effective.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll push it forward and say my favorite moment of the whole movie is when they're all surrounding the hand and they're talking about it, and they have this like lengthy conversation about the hand and seed pods coming off of the palm,
Yeah.
and what it's looks like and what it's doing and blah blah blah, or like it's just lying there, and they're talking about it, talking, and then they start to kind of like walk away from it a bit, just by like a few feet. The characters start to stroll away, and the camera follows it, and they're talking, and then all of a sudden everyone just shuts up, and they all just like turn their heads and look towards where the hand is. But now the hand's off screen and the audience can't see it. But everyone is staring at it in complete silence, and you're just left to wonder, like, what is it doing?
Yeah. Sometimes less is more in that way.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate in most of the scenes with the thing, they kept it really, like, shadowed in darkness, because when you did see it, it kind of broke some of the fright to it. Like, especially at the end, when he's stumbling forward, I'm like, it's like Frankenstein. It's not that scary.
Yeah, it was definitely like Frankenstein. But yeah,
the fire scene, that was clutch though, because he like bursts open the door and he's like silhouetted, and then they like throw fire on him. That was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, totally. It's almost like the poster for John Carpenter's The Thing, with the guy like in the parka with the lights coming out. That almost more represents the alien monster from this version of The Thing. But I think you're right, and they definitely took the Jaws approach in keeping the creature shrouded and showing him mostly in wides, which was very effective to making it like sort of ambiguous and creepy. And I'll just jump right into my other piece of trivia here. Close-ups of the Thing were, I guess, filmed but removed. It was felt that the makeup could not hold up to close scrutiny. However, the lack of close-ups gave the creature a more mysterious quality. Definitely agree with that. And I think it was really... There you go. Got a nice Marshy?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So you think it was really...
It was really effective in helping the audience also be afraid of the creature along with the characters in the film. Because if the audience gets to see a close-up, but the characters don't, then the audience gets put at ease somewhat, because they start to understand it more.
Yeah. It's the whole theory of Hitchcock, where it's like, you know, you're aware of a presence, but like you're not seeing what's fully happening. Like,
or like the...
Yeah.
Sorry, I totally interrupted you. I apologize.
No. It was like it's like a bomb under the table, but it's like you're not seeing how they're gonna successfully foil that. Like, you're just seeing like with the positions that the characters are in. You know what I mean? It like holds space for it, so we're like in the position of like them, where we're like we're seeing like parts of it, or you know, our imagination is more wild than what it actually is.
I suppose. I think maybe you're talking about a different concept.
Yeah, I think
possibly, which would be the idea that like suspense is when the audience knows something like terrifying with regards to the characters that the characters don't know.
I think that's not really applicable in this situation.
Right. More so, what I'm talking about is the lack of knowing makes it more scary.
In a situation like this, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if something's terrorizing you, not knowing like what the deal is gonna be way more scary.
Yeah. I think an example of what you're talking about is when the audience sees that the guy put the electric blanket over top of the slab of ice, and the audience knows that it's an electric blanket and that it's plugged in, but the character who put it on doesn't realize.
Right.
Right.
So it's like we're one step ahead, like, ooh,
yeah,
what's going to happen next?
That creates the suspense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was effective, but man, if any audience members listening out there, if you have not seen John Carpenter's The Thing, even if you are not really into horror, which we are not,
it's pretty
like,
scary, though.
We're not huge horror heads, you know? I think I mentioned it like last year. We like horror with personality.
Yeah.
You know, not just gore.
I think some people are like, gotta get me that. Like, I'll watch every crappy horror movie out there because I'm all about it. Whereas we're like, we only want to watch the ones that like are crafting a really interesting story, a really interesting cinematography.
Right. So I thought it was good. But just going back to the point about keeping the creature hidden in shadow and filming it in wides helps the audience be more afraid of it. That, as I learned a few minutes ago, for you, was completely ruined. because
Yeah.
what we used to watch this film, Hannah put it on while I was in the other room, and they put the poster out there plain as day with a giant close-up of the alien monster
Like
in
full body.
in full view,
Yeah.
and it just looks goofy.
Yeah, he looks like Frankenstein. He's like green.
Frankenstein with a butt forehead.
Yeah, which is kind of like the movie's black and white, so you can kind of interpret his coloring like any way you want. But like on the poster, it's green, so it's like, how could you not think of Frankenstein?
Was it actually green on the poster?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that sucks.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like in the age of streaming and digital distribution, you have to be very aware of how you're presenting your movie. Like, that's how
Of
you're
course.
presenting it is almost as important as the movie itself. Because we've talked before about crappy subtitles and posters and, like, log lines ruining things. I don't know if we talked about this on mic, but there was a moment when we were watching Mad Men, and mild spoilers for Mad Men. Okay? 3, 2, 1.
Oh yeah.
Here we go with
Yeah.
mild spoils for Mad Men. So, late in the show, Don Draper marries his secretary named Megan. But that doesn't happen until Megan has been in the show for a little bit. And we were watching this on Amazon, and Amazon uses this nifty little feature where if you pause your show or your movie, it'll pop up with a list of the actors who are in not only the movie, but in that scene. And it'll show the actors' names, and it'll show the characters' names. And we had watched a couple of episodes with that character in it, and it showed, you know, Megan and then her last name, whatever it was. And then after a few episodes, we paused it, and we saw that it said Megan Draper. And that hadn't happened yet. And so I asked my mom, who was a big Mad Men fan, I was like, was this a mistake, or like did we get spoiled? And she was like, yeah, you got spoiled. I was like, come on.
Well, it was like before he was even dating her. She was like, I feel like she was in like a focus group, and she wasn't even his secretary yet. She was like the front of house secretary.
She was kind of a nothing character at that point.
Yeah,
And so we were like, what?
Had a couple lines. I was like, okay.
So, people who, I mean, I don't presume that anybody who's formatting content for digital distribution and streaming is listening to our podcast, but people
They
got to start
should be.
thinking about that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what the future of my movie is, whether it's going to go on some kind of streaming service online, or if it's going to be relegated to being copied onto a VHS tape and passed around.
That sounds kind of fun.
But if it goes online, I'm going to be thinking about that. Believe you me.
Yeah, I mean, it might be out of your control. I don't know how that works. Like, if filmmakers just hand it off to the distributors and then they do whatever they want with it. or
I
not.
mean, I'm completely independent at this point. Like, if,
Mhm.
you know, worst case scenario, it'll make it to YouTube somehow. But
Yeah.
that's worst case. So I'll read another couple pieces of trivia here. So, the skeleton crew at the South Pole Telescope Station have a tradition every winter over. What's winter over?
I thought we were at the North Pole. They said they were at the North Pole.
I think. I think this one takes place at the North Pole, and then the John Carpenter one takes place at the South Pole.
Yeah, it's in Antarctica.
If you say so. The skeleton crew at the South Pole Telescope Station have a tradition every winter over of watching this movie and the other two adaptations on the very first night after the departure of the final plane of the season. That is really freaky. I wouldn't do that.
It's like, we should watch this movie as something that could happen to us.
Well, I would watch Evil Dead in a cabin, but
Sure.
you know, in a cabin that's like an hour and a half ride home from where I am, not
Yeah,
like being
not
dropped off at
deserted.
the South Pole.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, it's part of what makes it so scary is it's not like they can run or hide anywhere. You know, it's like the
Exactly.
middle of the nowhere and like
Yeah.
the storm.
And speaking of which, I think the remake of the thing did a much better job of creating stakes for the story, because the idea in this one is like they kind of have to kill it, but the odds are stacked in their favor. Like, there's many
seems
more
like
of
it,
them,
yeah.
and very few of them die, and they take it out like within a couple of hours of finding it, and like generally everything ends up being okay.
Yeah.
But in the John Carpenter version, it takes them down one by one, And the stakes are so huge that they're like, if this thing escapes our research station here and makes it, down south or north or wherever they were, South Pole?
They're in Antarctica.
Yeah, if it makes it to the rest of the civilized world, then it could take over the entire world and kill everybody on the planet. So the stakes are huge.
Yeah, they're trying to keep it self-contained.
Yeah, I definitely thought that was missing from this.
I think there was an element of, in like the newer movie, of them trying to keep it around for science. Like Wilford Brimley, I think, like tries to keep it.
In the remake?
Yeah, tries like at first he's like researching and he's like, wow, it like reanimates. That could be like revolutionary for science, which of course, but like, at what cost?
Yeah,
so
certainly at a cost. I will say, this version still had a lot of very iconic moments.
Sure.
Like, one of the things that I love so much about the remake is the opening title sequence where the title is like burned away with light behind it. I had no idea that was in the original too.
Isn't that
a complete surprise to me.
Isn't the title card in Halloween though?
What? Pardon? Who?
In Halloween, they're watching The Thing from Outer Space on the TV.
The Thing from Another World?
Yeah.
Should have been called The Thing from Outer Space.
Yeah.
That's the Hannah original title.
Yeah, obviously.
I guess they were,
I'm
but
pretty sure
I
the
can't.
title card's
I
there.
can't say I've seen Halloween more than twice.
I saw it once.
Yeah.
Like a year ago or something.
I could be wrong about this. Also, ooh, some nice.
Yeah, hold for a police car.
They're coming to get you.
Yeah.
I think I could totally be wrong about this, but if I am wrong, then it was a missed opportunity. I think in the John Carpenter version, because another big difference is in this one, they find the spaceship themselves and they unearth the creature themselves. Whereas in the John Carpenter version, the creature makes its way from a different research station over to them, and then they later go investigate the research station that discovered it. And I think when they go and investigate it, they're like, oh, there's some recordings of when they found it. And I think they play footage from this one of them finding the spacecraft and doing the whole ring, where everybody stands in a circle and outstretches their arms. That is another very iconic image in my mind.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite shots, other than like the fire sequence.
Yeah, and then finally the ending line, everybody watch the skies, watch the skies. That is such a cool line to end the movie. I really liked that. And I was waiting for it, so I'm glad to have gotten to experience that. I mean, that's the whole point of this walk through film history that we're doing, is getting to experience all these moments that we missed out on. And so I'm glad that we watched this. I don't know if you are.
I think in terms of what we've seen that's came before it, it's doing a good job of trying to establish itself in, sci-fi, thriller, suspense, and, for what they could do at the time, I think that they did a good job. So.
Right. So what would you rate it out of 5, out of 10, whatever you want?
Is it like weighted like grades where it's like on a curve?
We're how many episodes in and you're asking me this?
Or it's like...
It's whatever you want it to be.
Am I comparing it to The Thing? Am I comparing it to King Kong? Because if I'm comparing it to King Kong, it's like a 5 out of 5. But if I'm comparing it to like the Thing 1980s, it's like 3.5.
You're comparing it to every single other movie that you've ever seen in your life and past lives.
Oh, yeah? You think I have past lives?
Well,
don't I seem like a little baby?
I didn't want to presume that you didn't. I mean, I don't want to be rude over here, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So comparing it to every other movie that you've seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Well, what a great rating.
There were some good moments, definitely iconic moments, and we wouldn't have the epic 1980s The Thing if it wasn't for this one. So probably a 3.5 out of 5.
3.5. So 7 out of 10.
Yes.
I would probably also give it a 7 out of 10. I feel like I don't know. We have a problem when we rate films sometimes.
We have a problem.
I'll take responsibility. I have a problem. I give out 7s like candy.
Me too.
But
that's like the average. It's like a B.
Well, this is the thing. Is like maybe we talked about this when we first started the podcast. If we did, if we didn't, I'll go over it again. Here is my rationale for rating movies. I rate movies kind of like you're grading a paper at school.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like 50% is a passing grade.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
So
it's a movie.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like if I'm rating out of 10, okay? An average score is 7 because most movies are pretty good. Most
Yeah.
movies aren't complete and utter dumpster fire. You know,
Right.
if we had an equal number of movies that were masterpieces as were dumpster fires, then the average rating would be 5. But most movies, by and large, are decent.
Decent.
So an average
Watchable.
rating is 7. If a movie is average, I give it a 7. A 5, and thus like 50% on, you know, a math test or whatever, would be like a barely passing grade, but very bad. You know, like if you did a math test and you got 50%, it'd be like, wow, I messed up, but I just barely passed.
Yeah, like I would say like a movie is like technically like everything is done okay. Like the cinematography's okay, the editing's okay, but it's just not that enjoyable.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mhm.
But anything below 5 out of 10, and thus anything below 50%, is like, you have failed. You have made trash. You made garbage.
Yeah.
I'm not only is it bad, but I'm mad that I saw it. I wasted my time on it, and I'm upset with you,
Sure.
filmmaker.
Yeah. I felt that way in watching Employee of the Month.
Great. Do you want to give a quick
Just one of those
rundown of your thoughts on that?
That was one of those movies during COVID, especially because you had to record at home, where I had to stay silent in another room with headphones on. So I'm like, I guess I'll give this a watch.
I had to record at home.
Yeah.
Like Zoom calls, you mean?
No, you were doing like training videos or something.
Oh, okay.
So I had
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stay silent because you were recording audio on your end.
Right.
And so then I was like,
Ooh, that's a big moth.
I know. It's giant.
Oh, I hope it doesn't get in the
Giant
fire.
ladies
Get out of
and
here. Go,
gentlemen.
go, 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 go. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Continue.
Yeah, so I was watching that at home because I'm like, oh, there's Dax Shepard in it. That's something.
Is that with Dane Cook as well?
Oh, yeah, Dane Cook's the star of it.
I feel sorry for you.
I know. I don't know. Everyone thought he was funny in like 2005, but I just don't think it's aged well.
Right. I have a couple movies, like a handful of movies that I've rated lower than 5 out of 10. But, see, that's the problem, is because most movies are, you know, average pretty good, that means the whole bottom half of the scale is kind of wasted. You know, there's not a huge difference between a 4 out of 10 and a 3 out of 10 and a 2 out of 10. I mean, 1 out of 10 is reserved for the worst of the worst, but...
Right. Well, I
You
think
know.
that's why people like, you know, Roger Ebert had like out of 4.
Right.
Um,
So if you... All that to say, if you rate... No fire. If you rate differently than me, and you consider an average score to be 5 out of 10, a.k.a. 2.5 out of 5, that's fine. I just think it's important once in a while to qualify that and say, you know, if I'm giving something 7 out of 10, I'm not saying it's awesome. I'm saying it's average, because someone who rates an average movie as 2.5 out of 5 might think that a 3.5 out of 5, you know, means
Is,
I
like,
think that
pretty
it's
good?
amazing.
No. In my mind, 5 are like some of my favorite movies, and like 4.5 are like, that was a great movie, but maybe it just doesn't fully resonate with me.
Yeah. So, it was pretty good. I mean, I definitely didn't hate it. I would watch it again. I would recommend it if you're looking for a good sci-fi movie from the 1950s.
Yeah, if you're into classic sci-fi, sure. I don't know if I'd
Sure.
I don't know if I'd recommend it to everyone. I would watch certain scenes again, but I don't know if I could commit to watching the whole thing again.
Right. Well, I hope you're in the mood for some more 1950s sci-fi, because coming up next, we have probably War of the Worlds.
Is that Orson Welles as well, or did he only do the radio play?
That's a really good question.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Guess we'll have to find out.
I mean,
Is Invasion of the Body Snatchers on our list? I think it is, right?
what year is that?
It's like the 70s.
I
or
wouldn't have
something.
put it on our list. Would you? Like, is there a reason you wanted to watch? I don't see it here.
Oh. Well, maybe we should say that for spooky season.
I guess.
I don't know. It's one of those classic suspense movies. I just assumed it was going to be on our list. I think it
Yeah.
has Donald Sutherland.
Oh,
I could
okay.
totally be wrong. I don't know.
Fair enough. Well, the next
So.
couple of movies coming up for us are War of the Worlds, 1953, The Searchers, 1956, and Ben-Hur, 1959. I don't know anything about The Searchers. I've heard that Ben-Hur is an epic, so I'm pretty
Yeah.
excited about that. We may add a couple movies in here and there, but it's already taken us long enough to get through this list. I'm not
Yeah.
complaining,
It's
but
going to take us at least until far into next year.
yeah, it does feel
Yeah.
like our hands are tied a little bit when we want to watch a movie that's not on the list.
I mean, we can do that. We're just not going to talk about it. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, well, maybe we will. I mean, Clock Stoppers ended up being pretty good. If you want to check out
You
my
know,
Clock Stoppers review,
All things considered, what it was, a Nickelodeon kids movie. Really underutilized its soundtrack, though. Gotta
Well,
say.
it underutilized it in maybe the amount of seconds that it
Yeah.
played of each songs, sure, but the songs that it picked, man, what a
Yeah.
awesome time capsule of the early 2000s, if I do say so myself.
Faux show. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. I think we got it. I think we're
We
good.
got it. We're done.
High five.
High five.
Over the fire.
Go Team Brandon. We
You-
did it. High five.
That you just patted my hand gently like 5 times. That's not a high five. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, we missed. Hang on. Okay, hang
We're
on.
gonna do like a
One-
Top Gun high five.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
We did it.
Good job. All right. We'll hear you guys in the next one.
All right. Let's
Peace.
fill up on marshmallows. Goodbye.
Bye.